So we got the new Z Fold 5 and Z Flip 5, and we've got a bunch of colors to examine here. First impressions, it looks like a refinement for sure. Like, the thing that stands out to me is how they've closed this hinge and made everything so much tighter in terms of tolerances. I haven't even turned these on yet, but these are gonna be your color options. What are they calling this? This must be icy blue. I actually was thinking it was gonna be some type of lavender, but now that I look at it, it is more bluish. It's also a matte finish on the back, so it's not going to attract too many fingerprints. Obviously, we then have our metal frame, which is the shiny equivalent of the exterior color. This color here is being called cream, which is essentially white with a silver frame. And then obviously you've also got to have phantom black. So different colors for the Flip series. So cream is the only color that's equivalent between the two models. Then we move into mint, available for the Flip. We've also got lavender, and then graphite, which is kind of not quite black. And then this model is glossy on both ends, but it does give the device some kind of symmetry since the display has now grown on the external display on the Flip model. I spent a lot of time using the previous generation Fold more so than the Flip. So this is a familiar place for me, but I need a bit of a refresh on this comparison. So this is the 4, and here we have the 5. And the most striking thing immediately is just how tight they've made that gap, or lack of a gap, compared to the previous generation. Otherwise, we're looking at something that looks very familiar. However, the device itself as a whole has become significantly thinner. Particularly when placed on a table, you can see how much bigger, especially if we go back to back here, this hinge elevates a little bit higher. Now, normally that would be relatively insignificant, but when you're talking about a big device like this, which is, you know, already kind of the biggest scale you're gonna stick in your pocket, shaving and trimming it in any way can have an impact on what it feels like to carry it around. Here's our external display. Honestly, the nice thing about the growth of these external displays, having them get bigger, is that now we can interact with the phone in a one-handed way. Like, this one is a relatively narrow screen by smartphone standards, so reaching across to the other side for like one-handed keyboard functionality is still some of the best you're ever going to experience. And then obviously we flip it open or unfold it, and we've got this tablet-like experience on the inside of the device. You can see our multitasking at the bottom as well, so we can quickly launch into our other apps. And I believe we can actually click and hold them too, and do our split screens. So this is pretty nice. This is the multitasking device. This is sort of the standard when it comes to folding devices. Been around for a long period of time, and in my own personal case, like the most used folding phone, well, that I've ever used. But this year, the Flip gets a much bigger external display, and maybe I'll be convinced to actually give this one a shot. So as you can see here, this thing has grown significantly from the previous generation, which just had this tiny little display next to the cameras. The camera orientation has changed, and just like on the Fold model, so has the hinge, with the tolerance now and the tightness on the new one. I mean, it's hard to imagine that you could get it any tighter. We can actually go in and launch our applications. When you open the device up, it's just shortened, and our nav ends up down in this tiny little cutout. It's not exactly a rectangle. It actually has a little curvature to it around this camera section in order to accommodate those external cameras. The other benefit with the Flip model, obviously we can use it as a kind of tripod situation where I can have this like this. I can be using my external cameras for recording myself or others, taking photos, doing conferencing, whatever, and not need any kind of external device in order to prop this up. And then that rings true on the inside as well, if I might want to have this kind of laptop experience where I want to watch video on the top portion of the display and do something different down on the bottom portion, I can place it like this, find whichever angle I like, relax, and not have to prop that device up or have any type of kickstand. So let's quickly lay down some specifications for the two models. If we're talking about the Z Fold 5, we have 3 storage configurations, 256, 512, and there's even a 1 terabyte model, although you will be paying for that. 7.6-inch QXGA Plus with 120 hertz, 374 ppi on the internal display, and obviously a 120 hertz refresh rate. And on the exterior, we've got this really large 6.2-inch display, 402 ppi. So you're actually getting slightly higher resolution on this external display. And honestly, in my usage from previous generations, I spend a lot of time on this display. I do most of my smartphone stuff on this display, and then I pop into the more tablet-like experience when I've got a little extra time and I want to do some video consumption. I might be watching something for an hour or doing more productivity stuff where I want to multitask. But day-to-day, responding to messages, quickly responding to emails, obviously answering calls and things, the external display is plenty good for that, and you don't really feel the urge to have to open it up. So it really operates like a traditional smartphone that just has this bonus when you pop it open. Now this one is obviously a little bit heavier, coming in at 253 grams. That's the reason you have these two devices. They both use this folding technology in different ways for different customers. Some want ultimate portability and others want multitasking and improved multimedia consumption. Now this one has a ton of cameras. We're talking about the cover camera, which is 10 megapixels selfie f2.2. You've got the under display camera in here on the inside. This is something that Samsung committed to on the previous generation. We see that it's making a comeback here on the new model. So the under display, once activated, you can then see it being exposed once you're actually utilizing it. This is not going to be your best quality, so I think this will primarily be used for things like video conferencing, because you have the camera and display on the external portion of the device, and it isn't an under display camera. This one is 4 megapixel, by the way. We flip it around to the rear, and this is where the exciting camera action takes place with the triple camera layout, 12 megapixel ultra wide, a 50 megapixel wide angle camera, f1.8, and then we've also got a 10 megapixel telephoto, which is gonna give you 3 times optical zoom. So this is also gonna have Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, but you're getting more RAM in the Fold model, 12 gigs of RAM, and then obviously more storage options as well, all the way up to 1 terabyte. Battery is another thing that's gonna get bigger here. Now, how much battery life you experience depends a lot on how you use this phone. If you're using primarily the external display day-to-day productivity, you're gonna get more battery life, obviously, than when you jump into the larger display. You're obviously, in this case, gonna use more battery, but it does have a 4,400 milliamp hour battery, and this one, just like the Flip, is gonna recharge to 50% in about half an hour on that same 25 watt adapter. All right, so as mentioned, one of my favorite things about the Z Fold previous generations has been media consumption, because you've got this tremendous display. You've got awesome speakers on it as well with legitimate stereo separation.
Not a Tesla. They have had this expanding world of products, and I kind of noticed it. Like, I would talk about it a little bit. Tesla's, Tesla.
And the other thing that I miss when I'm away from a folding mobile device is having this wonderful split keyboard here. You don't feel cramped at all. Super satisfying to use. I have to use it all the time, as mentioned. And Samsung has integrated it in a way that's really quick to toggle. So I can have a traditional smartphone kind of layout like this, or I can switch to my split keyboard, or I can actually break out the keyboard like this, and I can move it around the display wherever it happens to be convenient. So talking about the display a little bit, here are our settings. We actually have an extra brightness setting in here. The reason they have it as a toggle is because it obviously increases battery consumption significantly, but it also puts this display on blast, like it makes it pop. And this will be useful in situations where you're competing with a lot of ambient light, outdoors, maybe direct sunlight. Motion smoothness is in the adaptive mode by default. but you can also set it to standard if you want increased battery life. So this is your 120 versus your 60 hertz. And then there's some different color profiles. You can set it to vivid or natural. For the purpose of this video, I'm gonna leave it in vivid. One of the nice things about this form factor is you can have your video playing, obviously, and then you can just have something else going on down below, reading comments or actually multitasking. There's so much real estate here. Like, this is the size of some smartphones, just this one section. But if you full screen it and turn it around, that's where the magic really happens, because check out the size of this display. Like, just look at that experience right there. You've got a little TV in your pocket, and as mentioned previously, you have this really nice stereo separation. So if you look at the orientation of these speakers, you've got one over here and one over there. So if you hold it with the camera facing down, that's kind of right where your ears are.
Mo has put a tiny number on here. He doesn't want you guys to know this, but like, there's... Oh! What's the rating on this, Will?
4.5, 509 ratings.
That was better than I...
That thing's actually pretty good, honestly. So yeah, you can choose to watch the whole frame. For our videos here, cropping in doesn't really ruin too much since everything is very center weighted. So it'll depend on what kind of content you're watching, but there is something about the immersiveness of having such a large display in your pocket and being able to watch like this. Now, if you travel a lot, you might not even feel like you need to pull out your laptop or tablet because you just got this awesome screen real estate. Now, obviously, you can also fold the screen like this if you want to place it onto a surface. This will enable you to have your video on the top portion and then still have your comments and other videos to choose from on the bottom section. So it is, once again, kind of a mini laptop-like experience, similar to what you can do with the Flip model, but it is a thing that you can do. And obviously I could go into my video application and once again use this, or as a tripod basically, flip the camera around. And now I'm using these external cameras, but I don't need a tripod in order to prop it up. So I could just be like, check it out, like, look at this phone right here. Or if I flip it all the way around, if you want to film yourself without needing to prop the phone up, the phone is propping itself up. Now, since we're talking about cameras, let's go ahead and take a couple of sample photos. So obviously we've got all the typical modes that you would expect to find. And then we've got our versatility of our different cameras. So this is going to be your 1X. We've also got our 0.6, we've got our 3X. I don't really need to tell you guys much about what Samsung's doing in the camera department. The photos kind of speak for themselves, especially when you're viewing them on this OLED display. Like, the pop here is quite intense. You can see we've got resolution for days in here and lots of vibrance. You can go in and tweak it, however. If I click on this more button, you can see we have our Pro mode. Going into our Pro mode lets us adjust things like our focus location, whether we want it center weighted. We can go ahead and set a manual white balance, exposure compensation, shutter speed, so on. But I think most people are probably gonna live in the standard mode, or maybe they're gonna jump into the portrait mode, which here we'll use our model for this. And there you can see your portrait effect in action. Actually has done a good job with the edge detection, even with a lot of these obstructions and competing factors like the grid pattern on the ceiling and whatever this object in the background is. I think that's some sort of tripod or something. It's actually found the edge quite well. And then it also noticed that this plant was in the foreground. These systems have gotten a lot smarter, and this is gonna be usable portrait mode. Now let's talk about video. Video is gonna be available all the way up to 8K 30 frames. So this is a sample of an 8K video recording. This video won't be uploaded in 8K. You'll be watching it in 4K. So you won't get the full effect of this, but this thing can pretty smoothly record 8K 30 frames. Say hi, Will. I think probably more people will be utilizing this, which is 4K 60 frames. So here is a sample of 4K 60 frames. Smooth movements. And of course, the audio that you are hearing is the microphones on the device itself. I think Samsung really wants you to utilize multitasking on this device, which is why you've got this persistent bar at the bottom. And it's really easy to do from here with this sort of drag and pull. They've gotten rid of some of the complexity in multitasking that I think now more people will actually utilize it. It also could be better just for quick app switching, where I just want to go to my browser quickly. It sort of operates like more like a desktop OS, where you would have an application bar sitting at the bottom.
Today's sponsor, BetterHelp. If you've ever struggled in your life, which is pretty much everybody, including myself. I mean, probably the biggest struggle for me is just having such a hectic household and not being able to find time to simply decompress. And oftentimes things don't go according to plan, and it can be incredibly healthy to talk about it, to talk to someone, and in this case, a trained professional who can help you work through those struggles. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. There's a link in the description of this video. Clicking that link helps support this channel, but it also gives you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp, so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. Or regardless, if you have clinical mental health issues like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a human who lives in this world who's going through a hard time, therapy can give you tools to approach your life in a very different way. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. And because finding a therapist is a little bit like dating, if you don't really fit with that therapist, you can easily switch to a therapist for free without stressing about insurance or anything like that. So if you're struggling, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/unboxtherapy. Thank you again to BetterHelp for supporting this channel.
When we move over to the Z Flip, it's two configurations, either 256 or 512 gigabytes. Main screen on the Flip, 6.7-inch FHD+, obviously AMOLED, and obviously 120 Hz adaptive refresh. Now that external display, which saw the biggest upgrade, is now 3.4 inches, also AMOLED. It will be 60 Hz, and the PPI is 306. The whole thing comes in at 187 grams, and that's a big deal, because the whole focus with the Flip device, in my opinion, is having a portable, small form factor thing that you can stick in your pocket and kind of not notice it's there. Go ahead and unfold it and turn it into something that's very similar to a full-on smartphone experience from a form factor perspective. Very comfortable device to carry and use. The camera layout. On the front, 10 megapixel selfie camera. On the rear, you've obviously got dual cameras, 12 megapixels apiece, one of them wide, the other ultra wide f2.2 and f1.8. The ultra wide is going to give you a field of view of 123 degrees, whereas the standard wide angle 83. So the new Flip features Snapdragon's 8 Gen 2 platform. It's got 3,700 milliamp hour in terms of battery, and it can get a 50% charge in around 30 minutes using a 25-watt adapter. Unlocking the device is similar for both. You're going to be using your thumb and the side-mounted fingerprint scanner. So on the Flip model, that's a very comfortable location. You're already touching that button anyways. I've never had a problem with these style of fingerprint unlock. It's convenient and easy to use, and obviously in this case it will work in either the closed format or in the open format. When we move over to the Fold, it's the same situation. Very comfortable location to reach. So this external display has obviously grown quite a bit, and the question is, what can you really do with it? Obviously, the way that Samsung's gonna advertise it is with this fun camera functionality, which allows you to use these external cameras here while having a display to monitor whatever you're looking at. Place it down onto a surface, frame yourself up. Now this is actually better than what you can do on the Fold, because here we have our best cameras, which are on the back of the device, and we've got the monitor in the same location, so I can simply speak to it here, film a video on any tabletop surface. But look how contrasty that is. This is like ultimate selfie status with your main camera sensors, your better lenses, the better aperture, and the ability to monitor it. Also even do portrait from this location. And we've got our video functionality as well. This is a sample video using the external cameras on the new Z Flip 5, and I'm monitoring myself using the external display. For somebody that's looking for a smartphone that they're going to use frequently for front-facing video, and the versatility of being able to place it in such a fashion that it's comfortable to use for recording, front-facing video of oneself. This thing's gonna be tough to beat with this new improvement on the external display. Now you can obviously do more stuff on here, including, as I previously showed, you can quickly toggle some of your settings if you wanna just hit airplane mode real quick, or if you wanna turn on your flashlight or something like this without opening up the device. We can also go ahead and just launch applications and use it like a smartphone. Yeah, YouTube is just typical YouTube. So here's what your keyboard looks like. One-handed functionality should be fine for this. If you want, for some reason, to watch YouTube on the external display, does he have beard? You know what though? The audio on here is loud. You've got a second speaker, which is barely visible right up here at the top edge. Just 3 tiny little grill spots. And then the majority of your sound is coming out of this grill down here on the bottom. That's pumping some serious volume. Either of these is really flagship level sound. I've listened to a lot of different smartphones. You probably aren't even gonna need to use these at full volume. Now, obviously when we're talking about cameras, we've got a double setup on the back. We did see what it looks like if we're using the exterior display in order to frame something up. I'm gonna flip this around here. And so we have our 1x option, we have our 0.5 ultra wide. So there's our versatility with that, still totally capable. Comes to recording video, the flip model, at least this one I'm looking at here, maxes out at UHD 60. Here is a sample of UHD 60 frames on the Z Flip 5. So listen, Samsung obviously has a ton of history. I mean, we're on the 5th version of folding and flipping devices. These hinges have gotten better. The displays have certainly gotten better, and even the camera systems have improved, and the whole thing just has a more polished feel to it. On the Flip, we've got this bigger external display now, which takes some of that functionality and makes it even more usable. It makes it even more compelling, where now this whole tripod formula makes more sense because we have this much bigger and nicer monitor on there. And even for things like launching applications, I'm sure there's some applications that could be useful on this exterior display. That said, this device is so easy and compelling to fold and unfold, or flip and unflip. I think the majority of usage here is still gonna be in the flipped open configuration. But that said, this got a lot more useful, this exterior display, and I think maybe even better looking, arguably, because now it's a little bit more uniform when you look at it like this compared to previous model. I don't know, you tell me. I suppose that depends on the individual how you perceive that. Now, one thing to mention, if you are looking to put a case on one of these devices, the cases themselves are pretty special because they've got to be 2 pieces. So we do have later cases for both of these that are going to be available, and as you'll see, it comes in a 2-piece. You've got your main portion of the shell, which is gonna just clip onto the bottom really easily like that. And then you've got your top portion, which is gonna click on like that. And the nice thing here, you actually get an improvement in the lip location when it comes to actually lifting it open. But ultimately, it's gonna give you a nice, seamless hinge operation when you've got it open or closed, and obviously provide protection in the thinnest format possible, because ultimately these devices are about portability. Particularly the Flip, you're gonna want the slimmest case possible. Same goes for the Z Fold 5. So this is also a 2-piece. Now in my case, sometimes I prefer to just have the back panel on there, kind of like this. Once again, it creates a nice ridge, so it actually makes it a little bit easier to find with your thumb without even looking at it. And in order to open it up like this, you have your front panel as well if you choose to install it, if you prefer the more uniform look, which actually carries through to the whole thing. And obviously this is gonna provide a little bit more protection if you do the whole deal. I also wanna mention, in case you guys don't know, we've got this midnight model. If you're not looking for that traditional kind of carbon weave, this one still has that nice texture that you're looking for, but it has a more blacked out appearance, slightly more stealth, I guess, than the typical weave. All right, so there you have it. It is the new Z Flip 5 and Z Fold 5, both folding phones, but such a different approach to how to utilize that folding technology. You've got all Samsung's know-how built into these, into the 5th generation we are, and they finally figured out this hinge thing so that they could tighten everything up and continue to refine their approach to folding phones. Let me know down in the comments which of these you would go for. Would you select the Z Fold 5 or would you go for the Z Flip 5?